It looks like it's you and I. We'll see if somebody else jumps in. We'll go ahead and get started.
Alrighty.
So welcome to the Spiritual Gangsta Book Club. This is Shannon, Spiritual Gangsta. I am your host for the evening, and we are reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. This is series 1, week 6. Last week, let me go ahead and turn this background music off. Last week we were starting chapter 3, where we began moving deeply into the now. Unfortunately, I forgot to record this reading from last Sunday, but I did go ahead and reread it by myself without an audience. And it is up for replay if anybody wants to listen to it. It's on my website, anchoredsoultherapy.com, and it is under the book club. You can find all the sessions there, and the links there. So we spoke about moving deeply into the now, where one can become attached to the ego's needs, and we came to self-identify with these things, about the past creating us to identifying ourselves so deeply that we would have a hard time disassociating it from it, and how we've been attached to this, and it will cause us, if we continue to be attached to it, it'll cause us to be stuck living in the illusions of the past or the future. So in the homework, I asked everyone to take time and to become fully present with your environment, preferably outside. Take 5 minutes a day, go out, sit by a tree, notice the air, the flowers, the wind, the birds, whatever it is, the people, and just become fully present, because most of you from your day-to-day lives are just running on autopilot and you're not really seeing what's going on in the world. And I too am guilty of that as well. Jasmine, did you take any time to do that this week?
I did. Actually, even before the homework, that's something that I've been practicing every morning.
Oh, beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that.
I fail to do it on Saturdays just because I wake up and I'm straight on work mode, but every day of the week I do it.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
It really is a shift for your environment, for your vibration. Um, I'm finding it now when my kids are here. It's a little bit more difficult for me, but that's when we're tested the most, right? They say if you could sit in chaos and find peace, then you've obtained it for sure. But
Yes, that's
um,
for sure.
mine is like go for a walk and um, become present then, even though I'm walking, just being aware of everything. But I did have to have earphones in because my kids were complaining the whole time that they had to walk again. But
Yeah, I get
we made it.
I
We
feel
made it
that.
through.
I feel that.
I believe this coming week is going to be more positive. This evening we went on a walk and they weren't as complaining. So it was good.
I mean, to their defense, it is disgustingly hot outside.
Oh my God. My youngest son is like, Mommy, it's been 1 minute and I'm sweating so bad.
Poor thing.
And I was like, we got 44 more to go, buddy.
Poor thing.
I know. But he made it. He made it. He's slow, but we made it. So it's working out. All right, so we are on page 56. And Jasmine, do you want to read or you want me to go ahead and start?
Sure, I'll read.
Okay, awesome.
Where are we? Letting go of psychological time?
Yes.
Okay. Learn to use time in the practical aspects of your life. We may call this clock time, but immediately return to present moment awareness when those practical matters have been dealt with. In this way, there will be no buildup of psychological time, which is identification with the past, continuous, compulsive projection into the future. Clock time is not just making an appointment or planning a trip. It includes learning from the past so that we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over, setting goals and working toward them, predicting the future by means of pattern in laws, physical, mathematical, and so on, learn from the past, and taking appropriate action on the basis of our predictions. Even here, within the sphere of practical living, where we cannot do without reference to past and future, the present moment remains the essential factor. Any lessons from the past become relevant and is applied now. Any planning, as well as working toward achieving a particular goal, is done now. The enlightened person's main focus of attention is always the now, but they are still peripherally, I can't say that word.
That's okay, me
Per,
neither. Parapher Paraphiliary. I think
yeah, that.
it
It's
has
like
to do with
peripheral, right?
yeah, peripheral.
Peripherally
Yes, exactly.
are still peripherally aware of time. In other words, they continue to use clock time, but are free of psychological time. Be alert as you practice this so that you do not unwittingly transform clock time into psychological time. For example, if you made a mistake in the past and learn from it now, you are using clock time. On the other hand, if you dwell on it mentally and self-criticism, remorse, or guilt come up, then you are making the mistake into me and mine. You make it part of your sense of self, and it has become psychological time, which is always linked to a false sense of identity. Non forgiveness necessarily implies a heavy burden of psychological time. If you set yourself a goal and work toward it, you are using clock time. You are aware of where you want to go, but you honor and give your fullest attention to the step that you are taking at this moment. If you then become excessively focused on the goal, perhaps because you are seeking happiness, fulfillment, or a more complete sense of self in it, the now is no longer honored. It becomes reduced to a mere stepping stone to the future with no intrinsic value. Clock time then turns into psychological time. Your life's journey is no longer an adventure, just an obsessive need to arrive, to attain, to make it. You no longer see or smell the flowers by the wayside either, nor are you aware of the beauty and the miracle of life that unfolds all around you when you are present in the now.
Thank you.
That was a lot. I'm a little confused.
All right. So we have two different things, right? Um, Here, clock time. If you make a mistake in the past and you learn from it now, you're using clock time. So where a lot of us are doing the work, and now that's what in the moment, right? Where you're like, okay, in the past, I did this. I know, like, instead of waiting for my anger to subside, I just reacted. And now I feel as if I should explore those feelings before I respond to the situation, right? So this is
Right.
more clock time because we've identified it and now we're holding on to it. So then the psychological time is where we're like, oh my God, I can't believe, why did I do that? If I would have just did it a different way, if I would have just responded a different way, then I wouldn't have had this response. I'm so horrible. I'm so bad, blah, 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 blah. You know, that now you're in psychological time. You're going back and forth, right?
Okay.
So you're staying in the present moment, being like, okay, the past is still there and now I'm here, and now how can I um effortless effortless, is it effortless, how can I work through this issue
Hmm.
now, right? I've learned from the past and now I'm working through it, and you have a goal you're working towards, right? So this could even be like, okay, I have a goal of, I'm preparing for my day to get things done, so that, or preparing for my next day. I have to pack all my bags and I have to make sure my lunch is made, blah blah blah. So in the morning, that's still clock time. You're getting things done to
Right.
get the schedule done to fill a goal.
Right.
But then,
Okay.
the psychological part is when we get stuck in the past. Basically, we're obsessing about what we did in the past and how it's going to affect the future.
Okay, got it.
Like we still have to use time, because we live in this world. Just like we
Right.
still have to use money, and a lot of people are like, money's not spiritual. We still live here.
Right.
We, we still live here.
Right.
So we
Exactly.
still have to, unless like somebody goes, okay, time is gone. We already know time's an illusion, right? But we
Right.
know that I have to get my shit done, and I have to follow up, and I have people who want to see me on this day, so I know
Right.
to get things done. But I know that everything that happened in the past, my childhood even, I don't have to live with it. I don't have to carry it with me. I don't have to take it with me. I can just let it go.
Right. Something I'm going through and learning right now.
It's a process. It's a process. You're doing
Jesus.
really well
Thank
though.
you so much. It's been like, it's funny because I'm like, before I even started, I was like, I'm fine. Like, things are good. And then you just start going down this road and you're like, wow, okay, I'm not fine. Oh, that I didn't deal with that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the body holds on to so much, and it can take
Yeah,
so much, on a physical level and even emotional level. But like at some point, it gets to be too much, and that's when
it
it's like, oh my
does.
God, like I've been dealing with this pain in my foot that has now traveled up to my hip, and it's the same thing emotional wise. Like, oh, I was dealing with that heartbreak, and it went and moved over to now I fuck people. I don't want to talk to them. Like,
Right, right.
it just, so it's good. It's a process, but we get so used to it, right?
We do.
Right. So I'm going to move over here to page 58. I can see the supreme importance of the now, but I cannot quite go along with you when you say that time is a complete illusion. When I say time is an illusion, my intention is not to make a philosophical statement. I'm just reminding you of a simple fact, a fact so obvious that you may find it hard to grasp and may even find it meaningless. But once fully realized, it can cut like a sword through all the mind created layers of complexity and problems. Let me say it again. The present moment is all you ever have. There is never a time when your life is not this moment. This is not a fact? Question mark. The insanity. Wait, did I? Okay. The insanity. I'm like, did we just read this again? The insanity of psychological time. You will not have any doubt that psychological time is a mental disease if you look at its collective manifestations. They occur, for example, in the form of ideologies such as communism, National Socialism, or any nationalism, or rigid religious belief systems, which operate under the implicit assumption that the highest good lies in the future and that therefore the end justifies the means. The end is an idea, a point in the mind projected future when salvation, in whatever form, happiness, fulfillment, equality, liberation, and so on, will be obtained. Not infrequently, the means of getting there are the enslavement, torture, and murder of people in the present. For example, it is estimated that as many as 50 million people were murdered to further the cause of communism to bring about a better world in Russia, China, and other countries. This is a chilling example of how belief in a future heaven creates a present hell. Can there be any doubt that psychological time is a serious and dangerous mental illness? How does the mind pattern operate in your life? Are you always trying to get somewhere other than where you are? Is most of your doing just a means of an end? Is fulfillment just always just around the corner or confined to short-lived pleasures such as sex, food, drinks, drugs, or thrills and excitement? Are you always focused on becoming, achieving, and attaining, or alternatively, chasing some new thrill or pleasure? Do you believe that you acquire more things, you will become more fulfilled, good enough, or psychologically complete? Are you waiting for a man or woman to give meaning to your life? Whew. In the normal mind identified or unenlightened state of consciousness, the power and infinite creative potential that lie concealed in the now are completely obscured by psychological time. Your life then loses its vibrancy, its freshness, its sense of wonder. The old patterns of thought, emotion, behavior, reaction, and desire are acted out in endless repeat performances. A script in your mind that gives you an identity of sorts, but distorts or covers up the reality of the now. The mind then creates an obsession with the future as an escape from the unsatisfactory present. I will pause there. This, this is a lot of people, and this was even including myself prior to really I want to find love journey that I went on. And my mission was just to love myself, but this was 100% it. It was like the biggest thing that I was having is the attachment to the relationship making meaning in my life. Like somehow me having a person made me desirable, made me better, made me validated or approved.
I can
And
totally relate to that.
yeah, and there's so many women and men, but mostly women out there really just like when I get this person like chasing after somebody or wanting or putting their life on hold and desiring this other person when I'm just, like I understand. I've been there, but now I realized I've fucking wasted so many years of my life.
I totally feel that. I feel that. I feel the same way.
And truly, like, until you truly like love yourself, nobody else can love you. Nobody else is going to give you all that stuff that you're looking for because
At
you
all.
don't see it within you.
At all. But it's like we're willing to give so much for the other person, but we weren't doing it for ourselves, you know?
100%, 100%. If you look at like my early posts back, I know I have a ton of posts on Instagram, but my early ones, a lot of them are like just little quotes like that. Why don't you give yourself the love you so freely give to other people? Like those were the things I was processing. It's so true. We're always
It's
waiting
true.
for like, if I just get this or if I get that new car, then I'll be happy when,
Right?
like, and some of us need new cars. They could be bad, but just enjoy the
Right.
so bad. Well, yeah, right. So the next section is negativity and suffering have their root in time. Do you want to read that or do you want me to read?
Yeah, I'll read.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to switch rooms because my service was choppy.
Oh, no problem.
All right. All right. Negativity and suffering have their roots in time, but the belief that the future will be better than the present is not always an illusion. The present can be dreadful, and things can get better in the future, and often they do. Usually, the future is a replica of the past. Oof. Superficial changes are possible, but real transformation is rare and depends upon whether you can become present enough to dissolve the past by assessing the power of the now. What you perceive as future is an intrinsic part of your state of consciousness now. If your mind carries a heavy burden of past, you will experience more of the same. The past perpetuates itself through lack of presence. The quality of your consciousness at this moment is what shapes the future, which of course can only be experienced as the now. You may win $10 million, but that kind of change is no more than skin deep. You would simply continue to act out the same conditioned patterns in more luxurious surroundings. Humans have learned to split the atom. Instead of killing 10 or 20 people with a wooden club, one person can now kill a million just by pushing a button. Is that real change? If it is, the quality of your consciousness at this moment that determines the future, then what is it that determines the quality of your consciousness? Your degree of presence. So the only place where true change can occur and where the past can be dissolved is in the now. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All negativity is caused by an accumulation of psychological time and denial of the present. Unease, anxiety, tension, stress, worry, all forms of fear are caused by too much future and not enough presence. Guilt, regret, resentment, grievances, sadness, bitterness, and all forms of non forgiveness are caused by too much past and not enough presence. Most people find it difficult to believe that a state of consciousness totally free of all negativity is possible. And yet, this is the liberated state to which all spiritual teachings point. It is the promise of salvation, not an illusory future, but right here and now. You may find it hard to recognize that time is the cause of your suffering or your problems. You believe that they are caused by specific situations in your life, and seen from a conventional viewpoint, this is true. But until you have dealt with the basic problem making dysfunction of the mind, its attachment to the past and future, and denial of the now, problems are actually interchangeable. If all your problems are perceived causes of suffering or happiness were miraculously removed from you today, for you today, but you had not become more present, more conscious, you would soon find yourself with a similar set of problems or causes of suffering, like a shadow that follows you wherever you go. Ultimately, there is only one problem: the time bound mind itself. I cannot believe that I could ever reach a point where I am completely free of my problems. You are right. You can never reach that point because you are at that point now. There is no salvation in time. You cannot be free in the future. Presence is the key to freedom. So you can only be free now. Do you want me to continue?
I love that.
Right?
Yeah, if you want to continue, that's fine.
Okay. Finding the life underneath your life situation. I don't see how I can be free now. As it happens, I am extremely unhappy with my life at the moment. This is a fact, and I would be deluding myself if I tried to convince myself that all is well when it definitely isn't. To me, the present moment is very unhappy. It is not liberating at all. What keeps me going is the hope or possibility of some improvement in the future. You think that your attention is in the present moment when it's actually taken up completely by time. You cannot be both unhappy and fully present in the now. What you refer to as your life should more accurately be called your life situation. It is psychological time, past and future. Certain things in the past didn't go the way you wanted them to go. You are still resisting what happened in the past, and now you are resisting what is. Hope is what keeps you going, but hope keeps you focused on the future. And this continued focus perpetuates your denial of the now and therefore your unhappiness. It is true that my present life situation is the result of things that happened in the past, but it is still my present situation, and being stuck in it is what makes me unhappy. Forget about your life situation. for a while and pay attention to your life. What is the difference? Your life situation exists in time. Your life is now. Your life situation is mind stuff. Your life is real. Find the narrow gate that leads to life. It is called now. It is called the now. Narrow your life down to this moment. Your life situation may be full of problems. Most life situations are. But find out if you have any problems at this moment. Not tomorrow or in 10 minutes, but now. Do you have a problem now? When you're full of problems, there is no room for anything new to enter, no room for a solution. So, whenever you can make some room, create some space so that you can find the life underneath your life situation. Use your senses fully. Be where you are. Look around. Just look, don't interpret. See the light, shapes, colors, textures. Be aware of the silent presence of each thing. Be aware of the space that allows everything to be. Listen to the sounds, don't judge them. Listen to the silence underneath the sounds. Touch something, anything, and feel and acknowledge its being. Observe the rhythm of your breathing. Feel the air flowing in and out. Feel the entire energy inside your body. Allow everything to be, within and without. Allow the isness of all things. Move deeply into the now. You are leaving behind the deadening world of mental abstraction of time. You are getting out of the insane mind that is draining you of life energy, just as it is slowly poisoning and destroying the earth. You are awakening out of the dream of time into the present.
Thank you. Welcome, disciplined one. We are on page 64. We just finished up finding the life underneath your life situation. So this to me is basically, when we're stuck dwelling on the past, that deep sadness, that deep depression, um he's basically giving us the tools, to pull it out. Because he's right, when you're focused on those problems, you don't see the solution. You don't make the space for the solution. You're too dead locked on the past.
So, the first time around that I read this book, I had a really hard time understanding, like, I'm not even gonna lie, any of it. If there was anything that, like, was the moment that made the shift for me, it was exactly like what I just read.
Mm.
Like just doing that shift, like when he says, like, think about the moment, like right now, do you have any problems going on right now? That just like blew my mind.
Yeah, 100%. Because even I can think about, some situations with me. Like I'm nowhere near where I was like super. I was always living in the past or in the future. And even now, when I find myself thinking about the future and stuff like that, I can literally, I'm think about a recent moment where I was thinking about the future, and then if I put myself in that moment, and then I bring myself to the even within that moment, I see where the solution was and what he's saying, exactly what he's saying. Like, there's no solution there if you're so far ahead.
Yeah, that's totally true.
So interesting. Yeah, I definitely, when I read this book, it went way the fuck over my head before. Way
Oh
over my
yeah,
head.
me too. I
And
literally
now I'm like, oh.
I know, I know, right? I literally started reading it, no kidding, like 3 or 4 times. And like the only time that I really understood it, I was actually on a plane coming back from New York. And that's when everything was clicking. I don't know, maybe I needed that time alone,
Mm.
but then I didn't read much after that. I don't think I ever finished it.
I did that. Like I would take books and then I would, if they don't make sense, I'm just like, oh, okay, I am not comprehending this. Let me put this down and revisit it. Super common. Welcome, Disciplined One, to the stage.
What's going on? How you guys doing? I
Fabulous.
Good to hear. I was listening, and that practicing being in the now is something um, that I've been working on. That as my awareness is like as I get a greater awareness. One of the biggest obstacles just now was in my first race, just being present at what was happening, because my mind wanted to tell me certain things, that I was drowning or I was doing this, and because our brain is in this fight or flight. But then being able to tell myself, stop, think about like what's going on right now. Like I've been thinking about this now for a few seconds, and I'm not drowning. It's just this situation. And then I remember moments practicing that being in the now is like for me, finance has been tough. Um, I shouldn't even say that because that's like not a really good affirmation. But I struggled um, with finances in the beginning, like just believing that I deserved and I was worthy of things. And so, um, in that journey of transition, I would practice because entrepreneurship is hard. It's up, especially in art. I didn't know when the next possibility was for me to, earn an income. And so, uh, one of the things that helped me in between those stages was practicing being in and out. Like right now, am I in need of anything? Like right now, am I getting kicked out right now? Like and the reality was that I was anticipating these things 2 weeks in advance, 3 weeks in advance. Where the new month just shifted over, and it's like 5 days into it, and I'm already like, shit, I gotta pay the rent next month and things like that. And so, being able to slow down and be more present and just be aware of like everything happens when it's supposed to, and moving forward in the direction that I need, and being present that right now there's not a need right now. There's not these things that I'm living in or fearing or anticipating, like they're not happening. It's just uh, like an illusion that I'm living in the future. I jumped in and made a blurb.
100%. Like 100%. That's what I was reminded too. I think many of us, especially with the pandemic and stuff like that, everybody's been feeling financial pressures and stuff like that. So that's definitely one most people can relate to. But it's true. Like that's 100% exactly what he's saying here, like if you really just if you're in the present moment, you'll find more solutions. You're stilling the mind so that you can actually have those ideas come through, like of, maybe how to bring that income in. So where are we at? We're at 8:47. I'm going to continue reading. Um, page 64. All problems are illusions of the mind. It feels as if a heavy burden has lifted, a sense of lightness. I feel clear, but my problems are still there waiting for me, aren't they? They haven't been solved. Am I not just temporarily evading them? If you found yourself in paradise, it wouldn't be long before your mind says, yes, but ultimately, this is not about solving your problems. It's about realizing that there are no problems, only situations to be dealt with now or to be left alone and accepted as part of the isness of the present moment until they can change or can be dealt with. Problems are mind made and need time to survive. They cannot survive in the actuality of the now. Focus your attention on the now and tell me what the problem is you have at this moment. I'm not getting any answer because it's impossible to have a problem when your attention is fully in the now. A situation that needs to be either dealt with or accepted. Yes. Why make it into a problem? Why make anything into a problem? Isn't life challenging enough as it is? What do you need problems for. The mind unconsciously loves problems because they give you an identity of sorts. This is normal and it is insane. Problem means that you are dwelling on a situation mentally without there being a true intention or possibility of taking action now, and that you are unconsciously making a part making it a part of your sense of self. You become so overwhelmed by your life situation that you lose your sense of life of being. Or you are carrying in your mind the insane burden of 100 things that you will or may have to do in the future instead of focusing your attention on the one thing that you can do now. When you create a problem, you create pain.
Feeling judged.
I know, that's why I laughed. I was like, okay. When you create a problem, you create pain. All it takes is a simple choice, a simple decision, no matter what happens. I will create no more pain for myself. I will create no more problems. Although it is a simple choice, it is very radical. You won't make that choice unless you are truly fed up with suffering, unless you have truly had enough. And you won't be able to go through with it unless you access the power of now. If you create more pain for yourself, then you create no more pain for others. If you create no more pain for yourself, then you create no more pain for others. You also no longer contaminate the beautiful earth, your inner space, and the collective human psyche with the negativity of problem making. Damn. So if you can't do it for yourself, you better do it
Bars.
for everything else, okay?
Eckhart Tolle dropping bars.
Right? So this I'm thinking even in the sense of, let's put it here, like I'm gonna bring it to relationship wise, right? Where um I've talked to a lot of people, and it's either you're choosing love or you're choosing your ego, right? So you're either choosing the now present moment or you're choosing not to be in the now, where there's this situation between you and another person. It doesn't have to always be love, but another person, you and another person. And it's either you're choosing to love that person and accept what's happening and accept the situation and accept them and accept the choices in this, or you're not. And we have to, it's to me, that's the same as like choosing to be in the now. And that would be, if it's so drastic with this person, you can choose like, okay, my problem is blah blah blah, but I'm in the now and I know I'm safe and I'm fine, and but I know that this isn't going to make me happy and I move forward, or not. That's how I understand this. You have anything to add there before I continue on?
I totally get that too. And I actually found myself in a situation the other day where, um, how do I say this? So a situation came up between me and my partner, and we're discussing it, and I want to be really upset about it. Like, it feels like it's like an old part of me that is like, oh, this is what you would usually do. You would be upset. You would feel this way. And for whatever reason, like, I just was not feeling that way. Like, I
Mm.
just felt like, I guess, calm about the situation. Like, like those emotions that were coming up before were not coming up, but it was tripping me up because the old me remembers, when these type of situations come up, to react a certain way or to feel a certain way or to be worried. Like, it was about finances, so like, or to be worried about the future, what's going to happen. But like, a part of me had like stillness, and I just honestly did not know how to deal with that.
So that literally was you observing the mind, right?
Right, right.
Without judgment, in a sense, like, or I don't know if you had judgment or not of it, but that was you observing the not mind. That's exactly what he's
Oh,
talking
okay,
about,
okay.
where um those old patterns and those old things come up, where you're aware, and you're no longer reacting or responding in the same way because you've been doing the work and you're working on things and you're becoming present. That's literally it. Just separating that and being like, oh shit, like
See, but to me, like I guess I looked at it a different way because I'm just like I'm happy that I feel that way, but at the same time there's another part of me that is like, well, if I'm feeling this way, like I guess maybe I'm thinking like, is it safe to move forward? Is it safe for me to feel this way? Like, what if, like maybe
the
I don't
what
want to
if
like
is
become
the
numb, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense. Like I don't want it to
with
be
it
like a numbness.
isn't that what he says here? Wouldn't I be deluding myself if I tried to convince myself that all is well
Right.
when it definitely isn't? Right?
Right.
So all right, let's go back then. Um you think your attention is in the present moment when it's actually taken up completely by time. You cannot be both unhappy and fully present. What you refer to as your life should be more accurately called your life situation. So, change this. Certain things in the past didn't go the way you wanted them to go. You're still resisting what happened in the past, and now you're resisting what is.
Mm,
But we're seeing if maybe he gets into it deeper. But okay, so what he's saying though is when you're full of problems, there's no room for anything. So even you saying, well, what if this happens? Is it happening?
no, right.
But if you are seeing a pattern, because I see what you're saying about I don't want to be like, so you've been down a certain road, you've experienced something, so this is why there's the fear of the past, the ego that's talking to you, because if you hadn't experienced that, you wouldn't be experiencing your life situation come up,
Right.
right?
Right.
So now though, you should be in back where we first started, where you're in clock time. You're making,
Right.
you have a goal, so you're making steps towards achieving that goal. And as long as you're making steps towards achieving that goal, you don't have to worry about the future.
Right. Okay.
Because when you're worried about the future or whatever, you're in psychological time and you're not actually making any steps towards the goals.
Right.
Progress, right? Is that like we're talking about like progress?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That totally makes
See,
sense now.
yeah. So you still use the past as a learning tool, right? So
Right.
you learn something, but we don't dwell on it. That was the other part, right? That's where we started.
Right.
We don't dwell on it. Let it, no, it was this thing. No, it was what you read. Yeah,
Yeah, what
letting
I
go of
read.
the psychological time. Yeah, so you don't get into self-criticism, remorse, guilt, or anything like that, and worrying about what's going to happen because of what did happen.
Right. Right.
You stay in the clock time and you stay in the now and you say, okay, I learned from that past time. Now I'm going to make practical steps towards these goals to make sure the past doesn't repeat itself.
Right.
So it's the same as, with your finances. Okay, I didn't make enough money to reach my goal in order to pay for X, right?
Right.
So now I know I need to be making this much per day in order to reach my goal to pay for this. And how I get to make that, I need to be, contacting and booking so many clients per day,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and if for some reason you wanted a job change or something like that, okay, what am I being drawn to? How can I provide this service to other people? And it shouldn't be about money. How can I provide this service to other people? Because that's another book I just read. how can I serve everyone, right? How can I give
Right.
to people with value to people, right?
Right.
And then can I make money from that? You know?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and then that'll open up a different avenue for you to bring in finances. Same thing with relationships or people in your life, okay, this person I know did this to me in the past, but we're here presently in the now, and this person is they're either working on it because they're working on it, and I'm going through an experience and I'm experiencing a trigger, or and either I need to work on this current moment and learn from the past and work through the trigger, or B, this person repeated it and I need to assess how I am.
Right. Right.
Like, is this a repetitive thing that I need to leave, or so
Right.
it's always staying in the now, though, just always honoring being in that clock time.
Got it. It totally makes sense now. Thank you.
So all right, I forgot where we went. I moved my finger. Oh, right there. Okay. 65. I want to end. Okay, so where are we at? We're at 9 o'clock. So I'm gonna read this next section, and then we'll probably just end it there. Or it's up to you guys. We have like 4.5 pages before the next chapter. So if you guys want to just finish the chapter, or I can just finish this section.
I'm cool either way. Whatever you're feeling.
All right. So let's see here. All right. So page 65 at the bottom. If you have ever been in a life or death emergency situation, you will know that it wasn't a problem. The mind didn't have time to fool around and make it into a problem. In a true emergency, the mind stops. You become totally present in the now, and something infinitely more powerful takes over. This is why there are many reports of ordinary people suddenly becoming capable of incredible, courageous deeds. In any emergency, either you survive or you don't. Either way, it's not a problem. Some people get angry when they hear me say that problems are illusions. I am threatening to take away their sense of who they are. They have invested much time in a false sense of self. For many years, they have unconsciously defined their whole identity in terms of their problems or suffering. Who would they be without it? A great deal of what people say, think, or do is actually motivated by fear, which of course is always linked with having your focus on the future and being out of touch with the now. As there are no problems in the now, there is no fear either. Should a situation arise that you need to deal with now, your action will be clear and incisive if it arises out of a present moment awareness. It is also more likely to be effective. It will not be a reaction coming from the past conditioning of your mind, but an intuitive response to the situation. In other instances, when the time bound mind would have reacted, you will find it more effectively to do nothing. Just stay centered in the now. A quantum leap in the evolution of consciousness. I've had glimpses of this state of freedom from mind and time that you describe, but past and future are always so overwhelmingly strong that I cannot keep them out for very long. The time-bound mode of consciousness is deeply embedded in the human psyche, but what we are doing here is part of a profound transformation that is taking place in a collective consciousness of the planet and beyond. The awakening of the consciousness from the dream of matter, form, and separation. The ending of time. We are breaking mind patterns that have dominated human life for eons. Mind patterns that have created unimaginable suffering on a vast scale. I am not using the word evil. It is more helpful to call it unconsciousness, or insanity. This breaking up of the old mode of consciousness, or rather unconsciousness, is it something we have to do, or will it happen anyway? I mean, Is this change inevitable? That is a question of perspective. The doing and the happening is in fact a single process because you are one with the totality of consciousness. You cannot separate the two, but there is no absolute guarantee that humans will make it. The process isn't inevitable or automatic. Your cooperation is an essential part of it. However you look at it, it is a quantum leap in the evolution of consciousness, as well as our only chance of survival as a race. The joy of being. To alert you that you have allowed yourself to be taken over by psychological time, you can use a simple criterion. Ask yourself, is there joy, ease, and lightness in what I am doing? If there isn't, then time is covering up the present moment, and life is perceived as a burden or struggle. If there is no joy, ease, or lightness in what you are doing, it does not necessarily mean that you need to change what you are doing. It may be sufficient to change the how. How is always more important than what. See if you can give much more attention to the doing than to the result of what you want to achieve through it. Give your fullest attention to whatever the moment presents. This implies that you also completely accept what is, because you cannot give your full attention to something and at the same time resist it. As soon as you honor the present moment, all unhappiness and struggle dissolve, and life begins to flow with joy and ease. When you act out of present moment awareness, whatever you do becomes imbued with a sense of quality, care, and love, even the most simple action. And there's a pause here. Would you guys like to contribute? I like how, or I don't know, this part is interesting. How he says that obviously the quantum leap is not inevitable or automatic. Your cooperation is an essential part of it. And this is so very true. We have free will. So many people get to the edge of waking up and will turn back around and say, no, thank you. Because it is work. It is work to be in the present moment. And many, many people are attached to their problems because they feel that is their identity. They cannot see themselves as anything but.
Yeah, same for me. Like that whole part is just, I mean, even myself, I realized that a lot of the things that I was doing were just things that I was holding on to, and I was reacting in other ways as an adult.
Right?
And it just became a part of me to the point that, you know what, when you don't have them with you anymore, like for me for a while, I'm just like, you kind of lose your sense of self. You don't really lose your sense of self because that wasn't myself, but
Right?
it's just,
Your ego screaming at you like, no, no, don't break up with me.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Don't break up with me. I need you.
It's crazy.
And then I like this. So this is where you're saying, when you're in psychological time, right? So you're thinking about the past or the present, or I'm sorry, the past or the future. Ask yourself, is there joy, ease, and lightness in what I'm doing? And this is even like anywhere in work, like when you don't, I'm thinking about, when you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to go to work. And then if you just become so present in like the way to work, your mood changes. Packing your bag and be like, oh, I'm going to take this beautiful fruit with me to eat later. Like all those things, those intentional things, you're putting like a totally different vibe into it. But when you're like, oh my God, I don't want to go to work, you're in the future.
Right.
You're not in the present.
That was me when I worked retail.
100%.
My goodness. But
Right?
even
Like,
like now, like I love what I do, and I got to a point that like I realized that I had such anxiety around time. And it was, I remember, I think it's trauma from like my retail days where I'm like, oh my God, I have to make it to work on time because somebody's going to yell at me or this is going to happen. And I would push my
Oh, that's
time,
so real.
and
Oh
it
my
got to a
God.
point now that what I do is like, sometimes I have the radio on, sometimes I don't, but I turned off the clock on my dashboard. So I cannot look at the time. So what I tell myself is I'll get there when I get there. Like looking at the time is not going to change anything.
I
So
I still am working on that, but I'm such a stickler for time, and like I'm fine. Like I I can handle my schedule. I know when I need to leave. I got everything, but like if I'm with anybody else and like there's a deadline and they're not meeting up to my timeline, I'm freaking out.
yeah,
Like
same.
even if I know people around me who know me know I'm freaking out, but like on the inside it's 10 times worse than what they see.
Yeah, but we should be good at practicing that now with having kids because literally it's unpredictable sometimes when you can leave out of the house.
Listen, my kids, I think I'm probably passing on PTSD to my children about it. Okay. Like, and mine 100% is from retail because my mom was late to everything, so it didn't matter. Like, it was a joke. It was a joke. Like, there's a whole joke with like my whole father side of the family. Like, if you want to throw a party, you tell them it's 2 hours earlier than it is, and everybody will be on time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have those a group of those in our family.
They're like, when's the party? It's at noon. Everybody's like, okay, yeah, and then nobody shows up till 2. Like,
My
or
friend did that for her wedding. She had to tell her side of the family two
are you
hours early.
serious?
2 hours earlier.
I love it. And then you make note of like who shows up, and you're like, okay, well, next time they get a free pass, and they can
Right?
know the real time.
Right?
I love it.
Mm.
All right, so I'm gonna finish up the last section here. It says, "Do not be concerned with the fruit of your action. Just give attention to the action itself. The fruit will come after its own accord." I think it's funny that I talk about packing fruit. This is a powerful spiritual practice. In the Bhagavad Gita, no, Bhag, Ba, listen, don't judge me. Bhagavad Gita, one of the oldest and most beautiful spiritual teachings in existence, non attachment to the fruit of your action is called karma yoga. It is described as the path of consecrated action. When the compulsive striving away from the now ceases, the joy of being flows into everything you do. The moment your attention turns to the now, you feel a presence, a stillness, a peace. You no longer depend on the future for fulfillment and satisfaction. You don't look to it for salvation. Therefore, you're not attached to the. In the absence of psychological time, your sense of self is derived from being, not from your personal past. Therefore, the psychological need to become anything other than who you are already is no longer there. In the world, on the level of your life situation, you may indeed become wealthy, knowledgeable, successful, free of this or that, but in the deeper dimension of being, you're complete and whole now. In that state of wholeness, would we still be able or willing to pursue external goals? Of course, but you will not have illusionary expectations that anything or anybody in the future will save you, make you happy. As far as your life situation is concerned, there may be things to be obtained or acquired. This is the world of form, of gain and loss. Yet on a deeper level, you are already complete. You are already complete. And when you realize that, there is a playful joy. Being free of psychological time, you no longer pursue your goals with grim determination, driven by fear, anger, discontentment, or the need to become someone, nor will you remain inactive through fear of failure, which to the ego is loss of self. When you deepen sense of self, when your deeper sense of self is derived from being, when you are free from becoming as a psychological need, neither your happiness nor your sense of self depends on the outcome. And so there is freedom for fear. You don't seek permanency where it cannot be found in the world of form, of gain and loss, birth and death. You don't demand that situations, conditions, places, or people make you happy and then suffer when they don't live up to your expectations. Everything is honored, but nothing matters. Forms are born and die, yet you are aware that the eternal underneath the form. You know that nothing real can be threatened. When this is your state of being, how can you not succeed? You've already succeeded. And that is the end of chapter 3. I think that's a beautiful way to end this chapter. We have already succeeded, ladies and gentlemen. We are already there, right? Honestly, though, when he says, can you pursue personal goals still? And of course, yes, you can. Where does he say, like, you become, where was he at? Right? So you become wealthy, knowledgeable, successful, free of this or that. And then in a deeper dimension, you're complete and whole now. So you're already those things. You're already all the things that you desire to obtain in the now. And
That's something I came across. I know it was like this video, but it was very interesting, and that's what I was talking about. That basically everything that we ever want, like it does exist right now. Like it's kind of mind blowing. Like that future self person that we want to be, like all of that exists like right now.
right, because we're so worried about, like, oh, in the future, but if we really sit with it, like, that person
Mm-hmm.
is still us, right? It's still
Mm-hmm.
within us, it's in our being. And being present in the now, we can tap into that energy.
Definitely.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys. Unless you guys have anything else to share, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks for joining me. My name's Shannon. I am the spiritual gangsta. We are reading The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. We ended on chapter 4. Disciplined, I saw you. Disciplined 1, I saw you. Unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I was just waiting for you to finish and say thank you and good night.
Oh, okay. Thank you and good night. Thanks for joining me. As always, I will see you guys in the future.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.